Almost there. Almost there.
Oh.
We're live.
Greetings, greetings, hello, all my relations, and welcome to the Founding Mothers April Connect Fest. My name is Ejna Fleury, and I'm a member of the Founding Mothers Peace Room. And today, our Connect Fest will focus on our third and current campaign, the Red Tent Ceremony and Strike. We wish to start by providing some background on the meaning of the red tent, also known as Moon Lodge in many indigenous circles. So in this video clip, you'll hear a Lakota elder explain the meaning of the Moon Lodge.
I woke up this morning feeling okay, 'cause I know that there's a red tent today. Once a month, and it can come too soon.
A moon lodge is where women go when they are having their menstrual cycle. And in a Lakota tradition, it was where women would go as a respite during that time when they were bleeding. It was where they would go to share with one another, give teachings. Elders that were there would come and give teachings. A lot of creativity occurred in the Moon Lodge. It's where women had a chance to work on crafts that they might not have been able to do in everyday life. Because in the Lakota tradition, women were primarily responsible for a lot of things in the camp. But it was the one time of the month when they had a vacation. So women generally looked forward to going into the Moon Lodge.
Purpose, we are perfect, we are present, we are here to love you as you are. We are courage, we are passion, we are still, we are. Our hearts are soft, our spirits strong. We are the wind of today.
Yes, so in 1997, a book called The Red Tent was released, and it revived a whole new feminine collective consciousness around the critical coming of age ceremony that most cultures have lost when the young girl first has her first menarche. So this book, The Red Tent, is a fictionalized story about Dinah, the daughter of Jacob in the Old Testament. It's at Genesis 34. Jacob was the grandson of Abraham, the first prophet of the Jewish and Muslim faiths. In their red tent, Dinah and the other women of Jacob's tribe would have a week of rest during their moon time. And what men didn't know is that the women were worshiping the ancient goddesses in the red tent. And it was actually in direct resistance to the new God, Yahweh. So the red tent represents much more than just a tent. It represents a whole paradigm shift from female goddesses to the male Abrahamic Godhead, that time frame. In other words, this is when patriarchy took hold and most of the world lost the divine feminine. So our guest speaker today, Diana Lum, is one of the initiators of the Red Tent movement. Diana has joined Founding Mothers, and she has been attending our campaign circle meetings to help plan and implement this direct, sacred action event. Our Red Tent event will be a 7-day ceremony and strike, and it will start on Monday, May 12th, the day after Mother's Day. Guess we'll see a slide of this. Come on, slide in, slide. Here we go. Yes, so you can see here And you can find this on our website, that there are different themes for each day. And we'd love for you to be able to visit our website and join this. So, with the full moon's arrival on Monday, May 12th, we will hold our opening ceremony. Monday, May 12th, opening ceremony. We also have a closing ceremony on Saturday, May 17th. So at our website, you can register to host a red tent event in your location, or you can search for a red tent event near you. We encourage everyone to participate. At our website, we've included a top 10 list of our direct action ideas that you could have for your local red tent event. And our first suggestion is that you invite women of all ages and girls all ages to help build your red tent. Then spend the week in deep retreat, solidarity, and in resistance to the patriarchy and the growing oligarchy around the planet right now. So you're going to put the link to the Founding Mothers Movement is going to be in the chat. And now Diane Blas will come to introduce our guest. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Today's speaker is one of the original initiators of the Red Tent movement. Diana Lam was born in Romania and grew up in Israel. She trained professionally in the UK and later immigrated to the United States. In 1992, she began a personal journey toward embracing her monthly cycle, which led her to reverse the curse. She became a certified group facilitator, and in 1994, she called her first menstrual empowerment circle. The response was overwhelming as she recognized the deep need in all women for soothing, healing, and reclaiming the adolescent girl within us who may have never been welcomed into womanhood. Deanna visits her home country to assist Jewish and Palestinian women surpass political, religious, and cultural differences by deeply bonding as cycling women. Today, Deanna is an internationally recognized pioneer in menstrual empowerment. She also is the author of Becoming Peers, Mentoring Girls into Womanhood, and A Diva's Guide to Getting Your Period. She is founder of the Red Moon School of Empowerment for Women and Girls and of Red Tents in Every Neighborhood, a global network. Known as a womb visionary, Deanna has been transforming lives worldwide for over 30 years. She teaches women and girls how to love themselves unconditionally and gathers spiritual strength from their moon cycle. And she guides women in the art of welcoming girls to empowered womanhood by creating red tents in their communities. We are thrilled to have Deanna with us today.
Thank you very much. It says unmute. I unmuted. I have to change the announcement here. There's all these technologies. Hello, hello. It's a joy to be here. I'm delighted to be part of this Founding Mothers Movement initiative and to align with this purpose that has been my sole purpose for so long. So I wanted to start, I thought there would be more people here, but I'll start with a show of hands. How many of you remember that had a first period? How many of you remember your first period? All right, so that's so far 100%. We haven't seen Amy because she's not on camera, but that's 100%. Now, of those of you who remember your first period, how many of you remember it as an empowering, sacred, welcoming, ceremonial event? Can we see a show of hands? 0. So we have 100% recollection of the first blood and 0 honoring. And herein lies the problem. Herein lies the whole gap that we're here to address. This is an event that happens in every woman's life under the sun. And this is the least talked about event of all. Women gather together and speak together in circles of atrocities that happen to them, of abuse and rape and recovery of their challenges as women in life. And through all of this, the story of our first blood stays silent. And this is a taboo that we are here to, and with the Red Tent movement, we're here to break. Because this is what connects us and unites us as women, with all women around the globe, of whatever faith, political belief, persuasions, religion, upbringing, culture, whatever we are, we still cycle. As women, we are born out of our mother's womb at birth, and as women, we are born again at the age of our first menarche, our first blood. For each girl, it's a different age, but from a place of linearity, when we're born, men and women, we're solar, we're not cyclical. Men stay solar throughout their lives, and women become, at the first moon time, they become lunar. So with the moon, we begin to expand and contract. Our emotional lives are expanding and contracting. Our moods, our needs, our social and emotional needs changes. So there are times of the month when we are out there expanding, outgoing, social, wanting to be connected, wanting to be active, wanting to initiate, wanting to be involved. And there are times when we want to move in and withdraw and recluse and rest and be just inward and not have any contact with the world. And this phase is what is completely unacceptable. We live in a solar environment, within a solar culture that worships everything that's visible, scientific, provable, in the light. Anything that's hidden in the womb, in the stars, in the dream time is not honored. So as women, we grew up in a world where half of our emotional life is denied. And we learn to hide it. We learn to override it. So every month we have a need to withdraw. We have a need to expand, and we have a need to withdraw. And when that need is not honored, and we can't take time like we did in the moon lodges and the red tents to withdraw and replenish and renew and release the old month and prepare for the month ahead, when we're not having the opportunity to do this, basically we are starting to develop PMS. So our bodies are starting to scream at us. We need to be quiet. We need to go inward. We need to replenish. And what happens is that the less we do that, the more our body screams at us, and the higher and louder the symptoms, the PMS symptoms become. And then we start medicating. So something that is not a problem, that has not been there by design in our body, that we develop because of cultural denial of our need, is becoming a medical problem, which we then we don't need to, but many of us medicate, and the cycle goes on. The antidote for that is indeed the red tent and the welcoming of our girls into womanhood when they start bleeding. So in the red tents, women in ancient times, in all indigenous cultures on all continents, women withdrew to the red tent to replenish themselves, to renew themselves once a month. It is said that in indigenous culture, it is said that when a woman is on her moon time, the veil between the worlds thins. So the veil between the spirit world and the material world thins for women when they're on their moon time. And indigenous cultures recognize women as shamans, as oracles of their tribes, when they were on their moon times. So when the women went to the red tent, the tribes would come and ask questions, both individually about personal matters and the elders about the direction of the tribe. Ask those questions of the dreaming women, the prophesizing women in the red tent, because it was understood that they have a connection to the spirit world in their moon time that they don't have at other times of the month. So the women are known to have slept in the red tent around the altar with their heads around the altars and their bodies out like the spokes of the wheel, and dreamt prophecies for the tribe. And it was clear to everyone that whatever questions were asked of the women, the answers that would come from the red tent, from the women's dreams, would be followed. So the elders would ask whether to wage peace or war on a neighboring tribe, whether to migrate now or later, whether to go north or south, and what the women would surmise from their special connection to spirit in this time would be followed. We have been losing all of that for the 2000 years of patriarchy, and we are now here to reconnect with that inner resource that we have within ourselves. It is not something that is ever gone away. The culture had denied it, but what we have inside is alive for every woman during her moon time. And the good news is that beyond moon time, because women in menopause are still cycling with the moon. So when we have our first moon cycle, our first menstruation will become connected with the moon. And that expansion, contraction of our emotional life, of our spiritual life, is part of who we are until the day we die. So it is clear that it's not a connection that we're losing. And women who are beyond menstruation in their menopausal years, in their wisdom years, are as expanding and contracting, even though their bodies don't flow anymore. Their womb are not shedding their inner lining as menstrual cycle, as menstrual blood, but we are still cyclical being. And we have the opportunity, since most of us have not been welcomed into womanhood when we were girls, we have the opportunity to welcome ourselves into our wisdom years, into our wisdom phase of our lives, our grown phase of our lives, when we start waning the menstrual blood and becoming wise women, withdrawing from the moon time into menopause. I'd like to also mention that what I've seen in my work over 30 years and what originally I developed is the understanding that the wound that sits in the center of our femininity is the wound of not having been welcomed into womanhood when we came of age. Girls, when they come of age, are like a bud. They're about to open to a flower, and instead of being encouraged to open up and blossom, the culture tramples on that bud and stops it and shames it. And girls and women around the world have experienced anything from shame to lack of information to embarrassment to fear. A lot of girls have thought they are dying when they started bleeding because there was not enough information. So we continue to grow up in these cultures that are not supporting us. And as adult women, women might break glass ceilings, women might go into empowerment in many other ways, but inside all of this, underneath it all, that bud, that flower that never bloomed is still waiting to be discovered. The inner maiden inside of us, the girl that has never been welcomed into womanhood, is still waiting to be seen and welcomed and heard and honored and acknowledged. And one of the things that I offer is retroactive welcoming ceremonies to womanhood that regardless of our age, we are able to celebrate the girl that we once were and her entry into womanhood, even if we're beyond the years of our cycling, even if we're at menopause, because that part of us that yearns is still there waiting to be seen. And when we receive those coming of age welcoming ceremonies, regardless of what age, there is a thread that we can pick from our adolescence, from our young self, from the maiden that was a visionary, that was a dreamer, that was an Amazon, that was a fearless, energetic being that was stopped in her tracks. And we can weave her back into our lives to enhance and enrich our womanhood, our femininity. I'm thinking that I'm at the cusp of the time that I was given to speak, so I can speak more maybe in relation to your questions. I would love this to be a conversation. So if you would engage with whatever, either question or comments or things that are awakening you in regards to what I was saying.
That was wonderful, Deanna. Thank you. Well, to get juices flowing a little bit more, we're going to show one more video, a brief video on what happens in the red tent. And then, yeah, we're going to open up the forum and share and ask questions. Go ahead, Corey.
What would our world be like if young women were mentored by older women? What would our world be like if we knew that we could have a place for our stories to be told?
We are friends, we are teachers, we are leaders, we are women.
We have lost a lot of these traditions, and in losing that, we have lost a part of ourselves.
There needs to be a red tent in every village, city, and town.
Life from a woman is messy. It's how we came in. It's messy, and it's extraordinary, and it's ours.
We are white, we are black, we are all colors in between. We are young
And I've seen lots of women cry and laugh and scream and moan as if they're in the throes of pleasure.
We are the women of today.
You come as you are, and who you are is enough.
Today. Oh, we are the spirit of today.
When you leave the red tent, you're, for a moment or a month or for the rest of your life, you're the woman that you want to be.
Such a sacred dialogue that is opened up within the walls of the red tent.
Let us be the way back to the wonder. We are the spirit of today. Oh, we are, here we are, here we are.
There are many women themselves that never valued who they were.
It came through me that my mother was sexually molested by her two uncles.
Maybe you weren't all the things you thought you were, but what are you that you can claim right here and now in the presence of your sisters? That's not indifferent.
Enough!
That's right. Yep, feel it in your body.
We need red tents so that women can know their power. We need red tents so that women can discharge the shadows. We need red tents so that women can express. We need red tents so that women can be alone and listen and be around each other.
It's fine if you don't share these attitudes and beliefs. You can come and have your space too.
You are a woman. You deserve to be honored, to be respected. Your story is valuable. You're tired. Come, be fed, be held, be heard, be seen.
We are sisters, we are friends. Ooh, we are white, we are black. We are young, we are old. We are Tennessee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura George. I'm also a member of the Peace Room at the Founding Mothers Movement, and that's our executive team. It's also our tip of the hat to Barbara Marx Hubbard, who said we need a peace room as sophisticated as a war room. So we are so happy that Deanna was with us today. The movement that she helped spark was global, remains global. And at the Founding Mothers Movement, the reason we chose this theme for our third campaign is because we feel so strongly that the loss of this critical coming of age ceremony and this welcoming of women into adulthood in a very meaningful manner, in a ceremonial manner, has cost us. And it's one of the reasons that the sacred feminine has yet to fully bloom. And we lost her in much of the world for about 2,000 years. So one of the things we say around here is that how can women be equal on the earth plane if God is a man in the ethereal plane? So part of this paradigm shift has to be rethinking the Godhead itself. So we're going to open it up now. This is the part of the Connect Fest where we really want to hear from you. We can answer questions about the Founding Mothers Movement itself. Deanna is still with us. So if you have questions for Deanna, please share. And let's just open it up, Corey. Let's go back into Brady Bunch mode. Here we go. Here we go. So who has some thoughts to share? We've got multiple generations represented here today too, which is interesting. I know my granddaughter's listening. I'm not sure if she'll want to speak, but go ahead, Karuna.
Oh, good morning, everyone. And I'm so grateful to ask this question. And Deanna, thank you so much for bringing us the red tent, bringing it back to us. One of the questions I have are the mindset of young women that have been using the compromising ways of the pill, for example, stopping the moon cycle, stopping the pregnancy, and really trying to find a peaceful moon cycle, and suffering the week before the moon cycle, and no knowledge, wisdom, or grace around how to support her. So she's medicating with the pill, and with her getting a little bit older and wanting to possibly change her mindset. How would what would you suggest for her to do because she might want to become pregnant and she might want to release this, but she's been told, it will cause more depression. So it's kind of a idea around how can we support young women like this without being preachers, and trying to help them, support them. How can we change the mindset?
All right, so two things I'd like to go in two directions. One is that we would help her, first of all, by changing our mindset. So we can't have the same mindset and try to change her. So I invite us all to educate ourselves about the power and the beauty of our menstrual cycle. But the main thing I'd like to say is that I would encourage a girl and a young woman like that is to begin to break the taboo around menstruation, to tell the story of her first blood. I was saying earlier that our first blood story is usually silent. Women who shared everything, bared their souls to each other, never even thought of sharing the story of their first blood. So in company of one woman, in a company of a group of women, in a company of family members, other females in the family, tell the stories together, tell the stories of the first blood. What happens is that we realize when we hear those stories is that we all have a similar story emotionally. The details might be different. The history, the background, the backdrop of the story is different, but what we feel, what we felt at the time is something every woman that hears your story can relate to because she probably felt the same. So I would encourage us to stop hiding that. We can't continue to hide those stories and the stories of our cyclicities throughout the years and think that we can be empowered. So make it a topic that is not a taboo, make it a topic that is on your mind. Come to work, come to your friends. I'm on my period today. I'm feeling a little bit tired. I'm not going to be able to be as present today because I'm on my period. That you make it part of life. If you have a headache, you say that to other people. If you have a cold, you say that to other people. If you are suffering with something, you say that to other people. However, if you are on your moon time, it's silent. So making this part of your reality that is acknowledged and owned and spoken and shared. And in my experience, when we begin to honor our moon time, the symptoms begin to subside all the way to going to zero. So I have a story, the most dramatic story of the women I worked with was a woman in Australia who came to me on Zoom after years of doubling over with pain, menstrual pain and medication because she couldn't function for a few months of the year, a few days every month. And it took us a few months of going back to her adolescence, healing the wound of the inner maiden, and beginning to put practices of honoring her moon time and her femininity and her womanhood into her life. And within about 2 or 3 months, the symptoms began to subside. She started reducing her menstrual medication. And a few months later, she got all the way to zero medication. So it's possible those PMS and physical symptoms are not a requirement and they're not here to stay. If we change the story, if we change our attitude and our stance towards our menstrual blood and our own bodies, there is no need for our bodies to scream at us with symptoms anymore.
Thank you very much. That's so helpful. I feel the isolation impact on many women. I hear their stories. They run from their husbands. They don't ask for help.
Yeah, yeah. Because they've learned to be alone at their first blood. When there was the first moment of differentiating themselves as a woman, they were left so alone. And that was the pattern that has been created, that you do everything alone. You take care of others, you take care of everyone else, but your own challenges you cope with alone. And that's where the isolation and alienation comes from, and we don't have to continue. We don't have to perpetuate that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
We were at dinner last night. We had 4 generations of women at dinner last night. And my granddaughter had never heard of, we were talking about this topic, and she had not seen the movie Carrie yet. And I'm bringing it up now because, you know, that's a movie where this young woman has not been informed that this is going to be happening to her. And it's a horrible story, as we all know. And she's made fun of for being so innocent and not understanding what the first blood is about. It's a gym scene. But the reason I'm raising it, it just strikes me as that is archetypally representative of anger that women perhaps share over having to keep this so weirdly private and so unnaturally isolating as you were describing, Deanna. It's not something, I mean, I went to high school in the 70s. We weren't ashamed, we weren't afraid to talk about it with our girlfriend, but it wasn't something that was a bonding kind of experience either, as it should have been. And for me, yeah, like I think back to the movie just for a second, I do have resentment about that. Like, why did our culture make us feel that to feel embarrassed or feel it had to be hidden, or when it could have been this amazing sisterly experience that not only bonded us, I mean, it bonds us naturally, organically, but bond us emotionally in a much stronger way. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on that. And I'm hoping it's changed, that younger women today actually are more sharing and more supportive and more, I don't know, imaginative with how they perceive it, because it should be perceived as this amazing transition.
So a few thoughts in terms of why we are so alienated. Let's look back at why something that was actually celebrated, the war moon lodges, the war red tents, the war moon hats, the war acknowledgements, why did we get to where we are? So one of the theories or the understandings is that patriarchy, as it was moving from the goddess to the one male god figure, was terrified of the power of women. The power of women when they're menstruating and their ability to connect to higher realms was terrifying. So something that was the most sacred is what became the most profane and the most denigrated. It is known that women are bleeding and the connection to the moon is strong. In moon lodges, women have acknowledged their ability to connect with the divine. But when the divine is masculine, that connection is severed. So one of my personal theories, it's not based on any other research and it's my own theory, but I stick to it, is that the circumcision is a menstruation envy. In the same way that a woman bleeds from her genitals without dying as a connection to all womankind and to the Divine Mother, there was a rise of a wounding to the masculine member and shedding of blood as an emulation of that. I don't know if it's true. I don't know that there is a way we can prove that. However, that's my sense of that. So these are some thoughts in terms of why we're so alienated. And you're asking about whether girls are in a different place today. My experience is that the moms are in a different place and they're wanting to celebrate the girls, but the moms have not resolved their own inner maiden shadow within themselves. So what happens is, what I'm seeing is that the mom are overbearing. For you, it's going to be wonderful. For you, it's going to be such an experience that you'll never forget for the rest of your life. We're going to make a party for you. We're going to make a ceremony. And the girls are like, enough, back off, mom. And I think that what the girls are sensing is that there is an unresolved intensity there in mom that is not theirs to solve. So my recommendation is always to start with the moms, to start with the adult women, to make peace with their adolescents, to make peace with their inner maiden, to make peace with their first blood. And when they have resolved that, to then come to the girls from a different place, not from an overbearing place that subconsciously tries to resolve an issues for themselves just by having a celebration for your daughter. Instead, having found some peace within yourself around your femininity, around your cyclicity, and then welcoming your girl in a different mode. And my sense is that the girls are becoming very receptive at that point because they're not pounced on. I hope that addresses what you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thrilled because my sister's going to be visiting Oracle campus during the week of the Red Tent event. And so we're going to have family here for that as well. It just feels so precious. So we're going to be doing our Red Tent here near the Peace Pentagon likely. And my mom is here and we're going to go get our red fabric and just really feel into the richness of the Red Tent experience. Yeah.
So my invitation and recommendation for you is to all 3 generations to share the stories of your first blood. It might have happened under the same roof and you may never have been told.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's see. Does anybody else want to share? I mean, it's a very intimate topic, but please don't be shy because it's part of what the Founding Mothers movement is about, is elevating these intrinsically feminine values and principles and experiences. So
I can share a little bit. Actually, we were talking about this last night, just responding to Deanna suggesting we discuss Violet, Laura's granddaughter's first blood, and how different our experience has been with that. And I do believe that it starts with the mother, and I'm very lucky that my mother was very progressive in that regard. I was still, of course, very shy about making sure I was hiding my products on the way to the bathroom, but it was a celebrated event of womanhood. And because of that, it set me up to invite that same experience for Violet. And hers was very ceremonious. You know, I brought her home a present and some big girl beauty products and hygiene products and ice cream cake. But there was no, this is, you know, this is a bad thing or any negative connotation, even if it can be a little bit scary the first time. It was all, this is femininity and you starting your journey into womanhood. And this is a beautiful thing and a part of life. And so it is really, that was something we were actually talking about at dinner last night. And it's really beautiful that we can share that with each other now and not feel that it's taboo. And I think that it's just wonderful that the founding mothers are making this a topic of discussion, because it shouldn't be so hard for everyone to talk about. And it should not be taboo. Oh, what I was going to comment specifically was when we were setting her up to make sure that she was prepared at school if she should ever start while she was there. We got her a little bag together so she could have a little bit of privacy with that. And I told her if she ever feels too shy to take a product to the bathroom, the nurse always has things too. And I just remember her turning to me and saying something like, well, even if I did have to take one to the bathroom, I don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. And I thought, exactly, that's great. It is not a big deal. She said it's perfectly natural. And I said, yes, it is.
yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. There's more and more and more stories of this generation that are coming, and it's so heartwarming to know that the tides are changing, and when every woman and every girl are welcomed, the world would be a different place.
I'm imagining that it's very different for various cultures. What are there generalities? Are there areas where it's still considered a taboo topic? Are there parts of the world that are still that? I imagine that there are. We don't have anyone here representative today. In the Congress we do. You know, we've got women from Pakistan who fled Afghanistan. We've got Indian women in the Congress, Middle Eastern women. Tell us a little bit about that, Deanna. How are we doing globally on this topic?
In my experience, we're doing pretty poorly, because the progressive women that are welcoming their daughters are the ones living in pockets of consciousness. It's not the norm. I travel around the world and I talk with women and young women and older women, and the memories are horrendous of their first blood. The question is not that, because it's pretty grim and gloomy. The question is, are there places in the world that are still honoring? And there is a place in India, a state named Kerala in South India, where there are villages that are still, there is still an unbroken tradition where girls are celebrated when they come of age. So there are 3 days of celebrations.
Wow.
The girls are honored and welcomed, and family members come from all the neighboring villages, from far and near. And there is a way in which the girls grow up to become women that are proud of their womanhood, that are proud of their cyclicity, they are proud of their menstrual cycle. And what strikes me about that is the unbroken tradition. What we're doing with the Red Tent is we're trying to reclaim a tradition that was broken. But the thought of girls that grew up going to the celebration of their sisters and their cousins and their neighbors, and knowing that one day it would be their turn, is so heartwarming. And that's something that we can create now. It only takes 1 or 2 generations to change the tide, like we heard from Amy. Her daughter's daughter would have a completely different experience. So there are still places where the tradition is unbroken. There are, of course, the moon lodges in indigenous North American tribes. There is the Kinalda, which is a 10 days coming of age celebration of the Navajo people, which is a beautiful ceremony. So there are pockets of consciousness that is unbroken. There are pockets of consciousness that we have reclaimed, and there is the rest of the world that we're working on changing.
And we're fortunate to have some Indigenous women involved in the planning of this event, from cultures where it wasn't lost. Like the first video we saw, the Lakota elder, who, peoples who are still very much in touch with these coming of age ceremonies, the vision quest for the young men. Yeah. Let's see, anybody else? We also had one last little video we were going to show, and also Karuna is going to do a beautiful exit for us, but let's open it up one more time. Is there anybody else who would like to share? Okay. Is everybody here going to do a red 10? Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll be building ours. And the registration site, the link was like 2 seconds from being ready. So I'm going to check because I'm hoping to put it in the chat. Shall we watch that last video before we turn it over to Karuna? Let's watch this one. It was another video with some really good ideas on red tents.
If you want to start a red tent, it's all about having the desire to really impact women in a powerful way that is just, it's so simple. Get a bunch of your girlfriends together, get some tea brewing, and sit with them and just be real. And hey, throw some red fabric up if you want, or don't.
And those women who aren't experiencing it, maybe they aren't able to find one, or they don't think they can take the time or the energy. They've been creating red tent temple days at home, where they simply put on their calendar, this is a time that I'm going to take care of myself.
I'd like to see red tents everywhere. I'd like to see women create red tents in their living rooms and in the park and on park benches, anywhere that women gather. I'd like to see it become something that is not a big deal, that is everywhere and is recognized as part of the culture.
There needs to be a red tent in every village, city, and town. At the time, I thought it was impossible. I think I was wrong. It's possible.
Women and the divine feminine order. May we come together with our hands in any beautiful mudra. This is our founding mothers mudra. The left is our beautiful divine feminine, the right is our masculine, and we weave them together with celestial communication. And we honor you today. And thank you, Deanne Lamb, and thank you, Founding Mothers, for bringing us together. My name is Karuna, and I'm also a member of the Peace Room. And we do hope and pray that you will build a red tent and also that you've enjoyed this Women's Month Connect Fest. If you haven't joined Founding Mothers Movement yet, there are 3 ways to join: as a world citizen, as a partner group, as a delegate of the Women's Congress. FMM has reimagined and reignited the International Congress of Women. Our 21st century Women's Congress is the body that maps and manages the movement. Female representatives from our partners come to the Congress on the first Saturday of the month to strategize and implement direct action campaigns that propel the movement forward. We held our inaugural Congress in July of last year. To date, we have held 10 sessions of the Women's Congress, and our 11th session will be Saturday, May 3rd. Men are also invited to the Founding Mothers Movement, and they help guide our operational circles. These functional circles meet weekly and include media, tech, partner, campaigns, and proclamation circles. At our 3rd Congress, we passed the Founding Mothers Proclamation, a document that succinctly sets forth our demands for women's rights and the cessation of war. On New Year's Day, we launched the weekly worldwide WAKEUP. We make good noise every Wednesday at high noon in every time zone. So make your noise. Get out there and take anything, a pot and pan, whatever you want to do. On March 8th, International Women's Day, we launched our 2nd campaigns called Founding Mothers Rising. We also prepared a petition for you to sign at avaaz.org. That's AVAAZ.org. And let's rent the red tent ceremony and strike. Let's make this a permanent place for us to be together. And we will celebrate this starting the day after Mother's Day, full moon, on Monday, May 12th. It's a week-long direct action. So, dear ones, let me quote something from the divine feminine, the goddess. Some of us weren't meant to be tamed. We are the drops of wild water, the women who run with wolves, the wildflowers, the warriors, the witches, and the weirdos. Let us be the world needs our wild. Let us be okay with this. Be you, be brave. Take this beautiful mudra of Jupiter, Saturn, and the Sun, and bring together, dear ones, your heart today and see, visualize the red tents, the mastery of the divine feminine, and honoring this incredible cycle in your lives, all of our lives, no matter where we are. Many blessings to all.
Jai.